Hey, Dad! Yeah, bud. I really like your business cards. They're bright and shiny. Thanks, pal. Yeah, hey, Dad! Yeah, bud. When we get home, I'm gonna go to your website. That's awesome, pal. Yeah, but I was wondering, do you have anything to do on your website? Well, no, not really. Yeah, Dad, you should really have a game, like Flappy Birds, but with your lighty fishy thing instead. And so for the next week, we talked about how my website needed to have a video game. And more importantly, it got me thinking about the importance of engagement. And I'm not talking about that kind of engagement, although for the record, she did say yes. Rather, I'm talking about the kind of engagement that involves a community. Because when you're trying to do something, like accelerating change, engagement is absolutely critical to the process because change does not occur in a vacuum. So today, while we're talking about ways in which to accelerate change, I want you to keep in mind the importance of engagement throughout every step of the way. And so the first building block to accelerate change is knowing your why. This is the fundamental reason that's driving you to change. It may be personal, as it is in my case, or it may be financial. In any case, it's important to know your why. The second building block is to understand your value. What do you personally bring to the change process that you can leverage for quicker results? The third is finding the inflection point. This is where you can push or pull and have dramatic influence on the change process itself. The fourth building block is building the tribe. This is the community that will help you through the process and shares with you a common vision and desire. The last building block is starting something. No matter how much you talk about change or write blogs about the things that need to change, unless you're willing to actually start something, you will likely see very little progress. And so, as we talk about these building blocks around accelerating change, I want you to think about your why. Why is it that you want change to occur? What is your motivation? And as you think about this, I want to introduce you to my ego, my superhero, my persona. Over the past decade, I've developed a water persona. And quite honestly, I think everyone should have one that they can relate to. And I think this for two very important reasons. First, everyone should be the hero of their own journey and their own story. And second, change can be really scary and feel overwhelming at times. And when things are tough, you can always ask, what would my persona do in this situation? And so my persona is the entrepreneurial water maverick. Entrepreneurial because I'm a risk taker and know how to leverage limited resources to get things done. Water because it's the foundation for all living organisms. And maverick because I don't always submit to the status quo. I'm happy to blaze new paths when needed. My entry into the water market was quite by accident. When I graduated college with a degree in East Asian religious studies, my dreams of traveling the Orient were shattered by reality when my mom called and said she needed some help running the family business. My father was ill, and being the only child, I spent the next 2 years running our small land development and manufactured housing sales company until we sold it to a national home builder. As part of our work, though, we had acquired 70 acres of property, 5 of which I personally bought and built my first house on. This property happened to have historically irrigated grandfathered water rights associated with it. And not being a farmer or having the need for the water rights, I set out to learn as much as I could. And I soon realized that there was an opportunity, and I began building my first entrepreneurial endeavor, a water market in northern Arizona. I spent $99 on eBay to purchase ArcView GIS 3.1. I collected maps from the county, from the assessor's office, and from the Department of Water Resources. I built the first database in the area that accurately showed who owned these historically irrigated rights. You see, most of these properties, like the 70 acres we had purchased, had been split down multiple times, and no one was tracking the water. So I started sending out postcards, calling people, posting ads, and eventually had my first community meeting. I was buying water rights on speculation and working with a few investors at the time. I quickly became the local water rights expert, and before I knew it, I was working with developers like the former CEO and COO of Del Webb. I was working with local officials on a public-private partnership for a wastewater treatment plant. I was even working on my MBA at the time. I was so successful in this endeavor that I worked my way out of a job. I had sold all of the water rights I'd accumulated from that initial database. So I moved on to the next opportunity, and for the next 10 years I worked with and inside organizations, helping them build and manage their business. These were engineering consulting firms in the water sector, where I managed their corporate operations, IT, HR, marketing, risk, legal. I was responsible for strategic and business planning. But soon I wanted more. I wanted to make a larger difference in the industry that had been serving me for so long. And I understood the value that I brought to the industry. I had a unique perspective on it, and knowing how to strategize and operationalize the tactics for successful business with deep training and leadership development, I brought a strong marketing approach to the business as well. So how many of you have heard or thought of the following about the water industry? It's slow to adopt, it's risk adverse, it lacks financing, there's a long sales cycle, and quite honestly, some people think of it as an old boys club. I've been seeing and hearing these things my entire career, and these are symptoms of a much larger problem. And that problem can very simply be stated: we do not value water. North America has become so adept at engineering new solutions to our water needs that we've lost the primal connection that we have with water. Our expectation is that water is cheap, if not free, and as a society we do not place any value on our water. This has always disturbed me, and I wanted to find a way to change that, to change the conversation we have around water, to transform the way we value this element. So a few years ago, I was attending a conference around innovation in the water sector, and all of the symptoms we just talked about were coming up. At the end of the conference, Peter Gleck from the Pacific Institute got up and said something that to this day changed the way I think about water issues. He said, "What if we started looking at economies of scope rather than just economies of scale?" So think about that for a minute. Economies of scope rather than just economies of scale. I certainly did, and it was one of the compelling elements that helped me decide to tackle the issue of water head on. And so I started mapping out how it was I was going to tackle this monstrous issue. I knew I wanted to transform the value of water through innovation and dialogue. But quite honestly, I didn't know which levers to pull. So I started to ask a question: why? Why don't we value water? It seemed simple. I asked CEOs, utility managers, water policy experts, my mom, my kids, strangers at the bar even. And I got a variety of answers, but they seem to fit in three major categories. First, there's a lack of leadership. People are not willing to make change happen. We've been historically doing a poor job of educating the public, and most utilities have taken the approach of avoiding any communications whatsoever with their customers. The second was a lack of technology. We've been slow to innovate new technologies and even slower to adopt them. The third is a lack of new ideas being shared around water, especially in North America. There's certainly more specific reasons as to why we don't value water, but these were the three main areas that I felt I could actually do something about. And so I had found my inflection point on the market. And I officially launched the Water Innovation Project, an idea lab, consultancy, and leadership hub with a mission to transform the way we value water through innovation and collaboration. And like any startup, I converted my garage and built an office where I was able to bring my strategic advisor to work every day. I built an internet presence. I sent press releases. I started building my social media platforms, and I continued blogging on sites like Our Water Counts. I even spent a week in the Canadian Rockies with Waterlution as an invited resource guest to help young professionals and entrepreneurs in the water sector with their business pitches. I could spend an hour talking about that trip alone, but I posted a blog about the experience in case you're interested in learning more about that particular adventure. I spent the first few months building a tribe, finding those individuals who shared a common vision and were interested in collaborating. My mailing list tripled over a 6-month period. I have an average of 40% open rates on my newsletters and a 10% click-through rate. These are well above industry standards, and it's because of a secret that I want to share with you. People want to engage with authenticity. They want to be involved with what you're building and have lasting connections. If you can be authentic in your interactions and provide engaging opportunities that are helpful to your tribe, they will support you in marvelous ways. And so now that I had built a tribe and I understood the inflection point, and I also understood my value to the water sector, it was time for me to start something. So from the pillar of leadership, I started engaging with individuals one-on-one in executive coaching sessions. We're getting ready to roll out our first mastermind group for current water leaders, and I was a member of WEF's inaugural Water Leadership Institute, serving on its steering committee last year, and I'm developing a workshop around innovation for this year's class. From the technology pillar, I've been working with existing and emerging companies, helping them navigate the fragmented marketplace, positioning their solutions, and exploring with them ways to better interact with the community. But for full disclosure, this is the one pillar that's currently not in operation. I actually joined a software company a few weeks ago as their first director of strategic accounts. Fathom is a full-scale, software-as-a-service, cloud-based platform for the water industry. We're bringing the smart water grid to market and addressing demand-side management. This is a company that not only aligns with my mission to change the way we value water, which can be seen through the fact that they were born from a utility, but they also support the endeavors I'm undertaking as part of the Water Innovation Project. And so now I'd like to introduce you to my Idea Lab. This is where I get to experiment with and explore ideas. The first project to be launched from the lab is H2O, an online collaboration platform for the water industry to share knowledge around information technology and software solutions. We're focused on building a roadmap for the connected utility, building a platform to share best practices around data management, and working towards a more collaborative effort between software providers and utilities. We have an amazing group of founding sponsors and a leadership council that's been meeting for the past 6 months. In fact, the other day we met face-to-face while in Chicago at the Marriott for a half-day working session. Later this year, we'll be opening up the platform for general subscribers and introducing new advisors and sponsors to the platform. The second project we have launched from the Idea Lab is one that I'm really excited about. For the past few months, I've been working with 25 authors to develop an anthology. Damned If We Don't, Ideas for Accelerating Change Around Water has been getting great support in the industry, and we're getting ready to publish 2 chapters that we're going to be giving away to anyone who signs up on our website. The first chapter we're giving away comes from Todd, the CEO of Avon Lake Regional Water, who writes about the importance and success of social media at his utility. The second chapter is from Donna Vincent Rowe, a water communication expert who writes about the importance of a communication system in the water industry that people can actually understand and is cohesive. Other authors include the likes of Julia, who's trying to change the way we think about water to create more space for people to think and innovate. Kelly and Sharon write about their experience with watershed-level scenario planning and the importance of collaboration. Cheng Zi and Gareth, developers of the game Aqua Republica, share how games can help enable change. We also have Alan, who discusses ways in which to plan for data use, and John, who's addressing the idea of water clusters and how they accelerate technology adoption rates. These are just a few of the authors, all of whom are sharing their experiences and ideas for accelerating change around water. Additional areas that we're currently exploring include gamification, a water data hackathon, a software accelerator, and a U.S. water innovation lab similar to what I experienced in Canada. Now that I've taken you on this journey with my persona through the building blocks of accelerating change, and we've discussed the importance of understanding your value, finding the inflection point, building your tribe, and starting something, for those of you that have actually been paying attention, you'll have noticed that we haven't touched on the most critical building block of them all. Understanding your why. If you remember, at the beginning, I asked you to think about your why, because your why is what keeps you going. It's the fire inside that burns with a passion, and like most whys, mine is incredibly personal. My why is about them. It's about making sure that we have the resources necessary so that they have a future, so that every future generation has a chance. Because if we don't fundamentally change the way we do things, that future begins to look really dim. And when I started the Water Innovation Project, I wrote a manifesto, and this manifesto is probably the best way to describe to you my why. We are concerned for the future of our children and generations to come. We are concerned for the humanity of today and tomorrow and decades ahead. We are concerned for our environment, for our water, for our land. For we have trespassed on a world willing to serve. We have taken for granted the gifts of our home. We have built societies and engineered out humanity. Every human should understand our relationship to the environment. Every human should resolutely defend our natural resources. Every human should have reasonable access to potable water and sanitary conditions. Water is the center of humanity. It is the foundation of our lives. Water is. It's time for a deeper dialogue to change the path of history for responsible decision-making for responsible water use. We need leaders who embrace innovative ideas, who can collaborate with peers, and who will change the conversation. It's time we transform the way we value water, monetarily, emotionally, societally. Without change, without conversation, without connection, our environment will suffer, our humanity will suffer, our children will suffer. Find your voice, find a tribe, find a conversation. Lead the way, make an impact, join a revolution. Innovate, collaborate, transform. Thank you.